The Himalaya rises where the map begins to strain. A wall of stone and ice stretching across Asia, separating weather systems, cultures, and histories. It is not one mountain range, but many, layered and folded together, built by the slow collision of continents. India still presses northward. The land is still rising. This is not ancient, finished geography. It is ongoing. From a distance, the Himalaya looks like a boundary. From within, it is a world.
So if you want more journeys into the unforgiving, the beautiful, and the unknown, subscribe. Hit that button and join us as we explore the places that don't fit on postcards.
The range arcs for thousands of kilometers, touching multiple nations, languages, and belief systems. Yet it behaves as a single presence. It alters wind. It traps monsoon rains on one side and creates high-altitude deserts on the other. It blocks armies. It redirects rivers that feed nearly a quarter of humanity. Few landscapes exert such disproportionate influence. At its heart stands Mount Everest, known locally by older names that predate modern measurement. To the outside world, Everest is a superlative, the tallest, the extreme. But within the Himalaya, it is one summit among many giants. Its height matters less than its symbolism, a marker of how humans try to quantify what resists scale. The camera pulls wider. Peaks crowd the horizon, each sharp enough to command attention. Icefalls fracture like frozen rivers mid-collapse. Glaciers creep downslope, slow and relentless. Snow lines shift with the seasons. Nothing here is static, even when it appears immovable. Human presence in the Himalaya is sparse, but not absent. Villages cling to slopes where flat ground barely exists. Fields are carved into terraces, following the logic of gravity rather than geometry. Stone houses are weighted against wind. Roofs are designed for snow load, not rain. Life adapts to altitude with little margin for error. Breathing itself becomes conscious. Movement slows. Tasks take longer. The body protests thin air, cold nights, intense sun. Survival here is not dramatic. It is procedural. Layer clothing. Melt snow. Store grain. Watch the sky. For centuries, these mountains were not obstacles to be conquered, but realms to be respected. Passes were used sparingly. Travel followed seasonal windows. Storms could isolate valleys for months. Communities learned self-sufficiency because help rarely arrived on time. Trade still moved through the Himalaya, but slowly. Salt, wool, tea, and stories crossed ridgelines on foot. These routes were not highways. They were threads, thin connections between worlds that otherwise remained separate. Along them, cultures mixed carefully, without fully dissolving. Religion found fertile ground here. High places invite contemplation. Silence amplifies belief. The Himalaya became a spiritual spine for multiple traditions. Monasteries were built where access was difficult by design. Effort filtered intention. To reach these places was to prove commitment. Prayer flags stretch across passes, carrying mantras into the wind. Wheels spin with each step. Ritual becomes motion. Faith here is not abstract. It is kinetic, repeated, worn smooth by use. But the mountains are indifferent to belief. Avalanches fall without judgment. Crevasses open without warning. Rivers cut deep gorges regardless of who lives along their banks. The Himalaya offers no mercy, only consistency. Modern borders slice across the range, but the terrain ignores them. Weather does not stop at checkpoints. Earthquakes do not recognize sovereignty. Landslides redraw roads overnight. The mountains remain in charge. Rivers born here shape continents. Meltwater gathers, accelerates, and descends toward plains far below. What begins as snow becomes agriculture, industry, and cities. When glaciers retreat or surge, consequences travel far beyond the high valleys where the change begins. Climate shifts are felt early in the Himalaya. Snow patterns change. Ice thins. Springs dry unpredictably. Pastoral routes adjust. Crops are replanted at new elevations. Adaptation is constant, but the margin narrows. Tourism arrives unevenly. Some valleys see steady traffic. Others remain nearly untouched. Trails harden. Lodges multiply. Satellite dishes appear beside prayer wheels. The outside world presses inward, carried by boots, cameras, and expectations. For some communities, this brings income and access. For others, disruption. Traditional rhythms bend under new demand. Sacred spaces become destinations. The mountain is reframed as experience rather than presence. And yet, even with crowds, the Himalaya does not feel domesticated. Weather still dictates terms. Storms cancel plans. Altitude humbles ambition. Rescue is never guaranteed. The range resists full assimilation. Climbers speak of conquest, but the language rings hollow. Summits allow brief passage, not possession. The mountain remains unchanged by who stands on it. Flags fade. Footprints vanish. Wind erases claims quickly. The scale recalibrates perspective. Human timelines shrink. Empires rose and fell on the plains below, while these peaks continued lifting millimeter by millimeter. Roads carved into cliffs look permanent until the next monsoon removes them. Night falls fast in the Himalaya. Temperatures drop sharply. Stars sharpen in thin air. Villages glow faintly, isolated points of warmth in vast darkness. Beyond them, only rock, ice, and silence. Sound behaves differently here. Wind dominates. Voices carry strangely. Silence presses in when the wind stops. It is not empty silence. It feels weighted, as if the landscape is listening. Wildlife adapts quietly. Snow leopards move invisibly across slopes humans struggle to traverse. Birds migrate along vertical gradients instead of horizontal ones. Life here specializes or disappears. The Himalaya does not invite casual habitation. It demands negotiation. Every structure, path, and habit reflects compromise with altitude, cold, and instability. There is no excess here. Everything serves function first. And still people stay. They raise families, celebrate festivals, bury their dead. The mountains are not backdrops. They are participants in daily life. Presence is constant. Respect is learned early. From afar, the Himalaya is romanticized. Purity, escape, transcendence. From within, it is practical, demanding, and precise. Romanticism fades quickly above a certain elevation. What remains is attention. Attention to weather, to footing, to breath, to each other. As the view pulls back one last time, the range stretches beyond sight, peaks overlapping into haze, rivers cutting south, clouds piling against stone. The Himalaya does not end cleanly. It dissolves into foothills, then plains, then memory. It stands not as a monument, but as a process, still rising. Stay with it, because the Himalaya reveals itself slowly. What defines life here most sharply is not height, but timing. Windows open and close. Snow melts just enough. Rivers calm briefly. Trails become passable, then vanish again. Everything operates on narrow margins. Miss the window and you wait, or you turn back. Patience is not a virtue here. It is survival. Movement through the Himalaya is measured in days, not distances. 10 kilometers can take hours. 100 meters of elevation can drain a body. Paths switch back endlessly, not to confuse, but to soften the climb. Straight lines are a luxury the terrain does not allow. Animals understand this better than people. Pack animals place hooves with quiet certainty. They know where the ground will hold. Humans learn by following or by falling. The mountains teach without explanation. Food is simple and repetitive, not by choice but necessity. What grows must endure cold nights and thin soil. What travels must be light. Meals are designed to sustain effort, not impress. Warmth matters more than variety. Salt more than spice. Hunger here is blunt and honest. Hospitality, however, is generous. When settlements are rare, every encounter carries weight. Tea is offered quickly. Shelter is shared without ceremony. Questions come later. In the Himalaya, refusal feels dangerous, not rude, but unsafe. Cooperation is the default. Stories are passed orally, shaped by landscape. Tales of lost travelers. Shifting passes, animals that appear and vanish. Myths are not entertainment. They are warnings encoded as memory. Ignore them and the mountain corrects you. Children grow up learning routes before reading maps. They recognize weather by smell, by light on stone, by the behavior of birds. Knowledge here is embodied. You feel it before you name it. Night travel is avoided whenever possible. Darkness removes depth. Distances collapse. Sounds deceive. A slope can feel flat until it drops away. Fires become anchors. Light is safety. Isolation sharpens relationships. Conflicts cannot be escaped easily. Communities learn endurance not just of climate, but of each other. Disagreements stretch over seasons. Resolution is pragmatic. You still have to survive winter together. Time itself stretches differently. Days are long with effort, short with rest. Seasons feel enormous. Years blur. Memory anchors to events. Storms, landslides, births, not to dates. Calendars matter less than conditions. The mountains absorb sound and release it unpredictably. A shout echoes for seconds, then disappears. Thunder rolls endlessly between peaks, directionless. Silence returns abruptly, as if nothing happened. Fear here is specific, not abstract. Fear of slipping, of weather turning, of not reaching shelter before dark. It focuses attention. Panic wastes energy. Calm conserves it. The environment rewards control. Altitude strips away pretense. Bodies respond honestly. Strength fades. Ego thins. Breath becomes a measure of ambition. Above a certain height, everyone moves slowly. Equality enforced by oxygen scarcity. The Himalaya does not encourage conquest language. Words like dominate and defeat feel out of place. You pass through. You endure. You are allowed temporarily. Sacredness in these mountains is tied less to doctrine and more to presence. Certain peaks are left unclimbed, not because they are unreachable, but because they are complete as they are. Restraint becomes reverence. Pilgrimage routes wind through extreme terrain, not to punish, but to prepare. The effort filters intention. Those who arrive are changed by the act of getting there. The destination matters less than the erosion of excess along the way. Modern infrastructure presses inward carefully. Roads carved into cliffs look tentative, as if unsure they belong. Tunnels bypass dangerous sections, but cannot eliminate risk. Maintenance is constant. Neglect is punished quickly. When roads fail, footpaths remain. Older routes outlast newer ones. Stone steps worn smooth by centuries of feet survive storms that erase asphalt. Simplicity endures. Communication arrives unevenly. Signals flicker in and out. News travels slowly. Rumors travel faster. Isolation creates its own information ecosystem. Local knowledge often outranks official instruction. Festivals here are tethered to seasons, not schedules. Celebration waits for harvest, for safe passage, for return. Music carries far in thin air. Drums echo off slopes. Dance becomes both joy and release. Clothing prioritizes function over identity. Layers signal preparedness. Bright colors serve visibility. Ornament appears sparingly, often with symbolic purpose. Nothing is purely decorative. Water governs settlement. Springs are guarded carefully. Glacial streams are respected. Too much water destroys. Too little ends everything. Balance is fragile. The mountains carry scars. Old landslides, ancient moraines, valleys widened by ice long gone. The landscape remembers more change than any living person. Human memory fits inside geological memory, like a footnote. Living here teaches scale. Personal problems shrink against stone faces thousands of meters high. At the same time, small decisions matter enormously. One step misplaced can end a journey. Scale flips constantly. The Himalaya does not inspire urgency. It enforces steadiness. Rushing feels dangerous. Stillness feels intelligent. Waiting becomes action. Even death is approached practically. When terrain prevents burial, bodies are returned to elements. The mountain reclaims without ceremony. Loss is acknowledged, then life continues, because it must. From a distance, these mountains look eternal. From within, they feel restless. Rock cracks, ice groans, slopes move incrementally. Stability is illusion. Adaptation is constant. People who leave often carry the mountains with them. Not nostalgia, but calibration. Cities feel loud. Distances feel compressed. Problems feel louder than necessary. The Himalaya recalibrates perception permanently. Those who return do so with humility. The mountain does not remember you. You start again each time. As the light shifts late in the day, peaks change color. Stone turns gold, then gray, then blue. Shadows lengthen across valleys. Wind rises predictably. Another cycle closing. The Himalaya does not ask to be understood. It asks to be respected moment by moment. And when you leave its heights behind, descending towards softer ground, the silence follows longer than expected. Some landscapes you visit, others you carry. The Himalaya is the second kind, because these mountains don't just shape land and bodies. They reshape how people think about borders, knowledge, and certainty. On a map, lines are drawn confidently, straight edges, colors filling space. On the ground, those lines dissolve. A ridge might mark a boundary on paper, but snow ignores ink. Shepherds cross where maps say they shouldn't. Rivers shift channels and quietly redraw agreements no one renegotiated. The Himalaya exposes how artificial borders really are. States claim territory, but the terrain decides access. Control here is seasonal, partial, and fragile. A pass open in autumn may belong to one authority. Closed in winter, it belongs to no one. Power becomes conditional. Language fragments the same way. Valleys separated by a single ridge can speak entirely different tongues. Words evolve in isolation, shaped by altitude and trade routes. Accents shift quickly. Meaning bends. Mutual understanding is negotiated face-to-face, not assumed. Names multiply. One mountain, many identities. Each community names what matters to them. Water sources, grazing grounds, dangerous slopes. Outsiders arrive later and rename peaks after measurements, sponsors, or explorers. The land carries all of it at once, indifferent to which name sticks. Knowledge here is layered, not hierarchical. Scientific data coexists with generational memory. Instruments record snowfall, while elders recall winters heavier than any gauge. Neither fully replaces the other. Both are consulted, especially when decisions carry risk. Modern science has moved higher into the Himalaya. Weather stations, research camps, monitoring equipment anchored into ice and stone. These instruments watch glaciers inch backward, record tremors too small to feel, measure air thinning year by year. They collect evidence patiently. Knowing conclusions here take decades. But data is hard-earned. Instruments freeze. Batteries die. Access windows close abruptly. Every measurement is provisional, contingent on survival. The Himalaya resists constant observation. It allows glimpses, not surveillance. Medicine adapts the same way. Clinics operate with limited supplies. Doctors learn improvisation early. Diagnosis relies heavily on observation and conversation. Evacuation is uncertain. Treatment plans account for altitude, isolation, and delay. Care becomes strategic. Psychology changes too. Isolation clarifies some minds and fractures others. Silence can heal or unmoor. People confront themselves without distraction. There's little to hide behind when the environment strips life to essentials. For some, the mountains offer refuge from politics, from expectations, from crowded identities. For others, they amplify loneliness. Both experiences coexist without contradiction. Mountaineering culture adds another layer. What began as exploration became sport, then industry. Permits, guide, logistics, sponsorships. success measured in summits, seasons, statistics. The Himalaya absorbs this pressure unevenly. Some routes harden into corridors. Others remain untouched. Local economies adapt. Skills shift. Risk becomes currency. Decisions once guided by weather and tradition now include market demand. The mountain becomes workplace as well as presence. This raises questions that have no clean answers. How much access is too much? Who decides acceptable risk? What happens when aspiration outpaces responsibility? The Himalaya does not answer. It simply reacts. Rescue ethics are debated quietly. At extreme altitude, help can cost multiple lives. Decisions are brutal and immediate. Heroism is limited by physics. The mountain enforces triage without apology. Gender roles shift subtly here. In many highland communities, women manage households, agriculture, and finances while men travel or migrate for work. Authority is practical, not ceremonial. Strength is visible in endurance, not decoration. Migration is common. Many leave seasonally, some permanently. Money flows back. Ideas return altered. Homes expand or empty. The mountains teach impermanence through people as much as through rock. Art responds in fragments. Songs echo work rhythms. Weaving patterns encode geography. Stories emphasize journeys over destinations. Literature born here often avoids triumph. It favors survival, return, or acceptance. Photography struggles to translate the scale honestly. Images flatten depth. Peaks look closer than they are. Danger feels abstract. The camera lies politely. The body knows better. Timekeeping itself feels unreliable. Watches work, but relevance shifts. Noon matters less than weather. Schedules bend. Plans are tentative. Certainty is considered naive. The Himalaya also shapes how absence is understood. When someone doesn't return, explanations remain incomplete. Storm, slip, fatigue. The unknown is accepted. Closure is rare. Life resumes around unanswered questions. This acceptance changes how people grieve. Loss is acknowledged, but not endlessly examined. There's respect for what cannot be recovered. Body, certainty, explanation. The mountain keeps some things. Education adapts. Children learn resilience alongside arithmetic. Schools close for weather. Lessons pause for harvest. Knowledge acquisition follows the same seasonal logic as everything else. There is no illusion of total control here. Planning is flexible by necessity. Authority is situational. Leadership shifts based on conditions. The most experienced voice carries weight, regardless of title. This environment produces a particular kind of confidence, not loud, not declarative. It's the confidence of preparation without assumption, of readiness without bravado. The Himalaya also teaches humility to science, politics, and belief systems alike. It reminds them that scale matters, that context matters, that certainty erodes under pressure. As night deepens in high camps and villages alike, conversations turn inward. Firelight flickers. The day is reviewed for errors, not achievements. Survival is success enough. Morning brings reassessment. Weather checked. Bodies checked. Decisions revised. Nothing proceeds automatically. Leaving the Himalaya doesn't end its influence. It recalibrates thresholds. What once felt difficult now feels manageable. What once felt urgent feels inflated. The mountain resets internal scales. Years later, memory compresses the hardship and sharpens the clarity. The cold fades. The silence remains. The attention remains. The Himalaya doesn't invite nostalgia. It invites respect that persists. It stands not as a challenge to be solved, but as a condition to be met again and again, and long after the paths fade behind you. The mountains continue doing what they've always done, rising, shifting, waiting. Here, effort is not celebrated loudly. There are no finish lines carved into stone. Progress is incremental, almost private. A day's success might be reaching the next bend before clouds thicken, or repairing a roof before snow returns. Effort is judged by outcome only insofar as survival continues. This changes ambition. Goals shrink to fit reality. Long-term plans exist, but they remain flexible, revised constantly by conditions outside human influence. The idea that determination alone guarantees success feels naive here. Willpower matters, but so does restraint. The mountains reward those who stop when they should. Decision-making becomes slower, heavier. Choices are not abstract. Every decision has weight, sometimes literal weight, carried on the body. What you bring, what you leave behind, when you move, when you wait. Excess becomes liability. Minimalism here is not aesthetic. It is protective. This environment trains judgment, not intellectual judgment, but situational awareness. People learn to read slopes, clouds, snow texture, wind direction. These observations happen subconsciously over time. Knowledge sinks into muscle memory. Mistakes are rarely dramatic in the moment. They compound quietly. A small miscalculation early in the day becomes exhaustion by afternoon. Exhaustion becomes risk by evening. The Himalaya teaches that failure often begins invisibly. There is no audience for heroics. Most struggles go unseen. This strips effort of performative value. What matters is not what you endured, but whether you endured enough to continue. The idea of comfort shifts here. Comfort is not softness. It is predictability. A dry place to sleep, a reliable fire, a known route. Luxury becomes irrelevant quickly. This recalibration stays with people long after they leave. Modern conveniences feel excessive, sometimes hollow. Abundance loses clarity when compared to sufficiency hard-won. The Himalaya also reframes silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is informational. You listen for snow settling, for distant rockfall, for wind changing pitch. Silence sharpens perception. Conversation adjusts to this environment. Words are chosen carefully. Talking too much wastes breath. Important things are said plainly. Unimportant things are often left unsaid. Humor survives, but it is dry, situational. Jokes emerge from shared difficulty, not distraction from it. Laughter comes quickly, then fades, making room for focus again. There is an intimacy in shared hardship that bypasses familiarity. People who meet briefly in the mountains can develop trust faster than those who know each other for years elsewhere. Dependency accelerates connection. At the same time, solitude is respected deeply. Time alone is common and not pathologized. Silence is not assumed to be loneliness. It can be clarity. The Himalaya also reshapes fear. Fear becomes practical rather than paralyzing. It sharpens attention instead of overwhelming it. People learn to coexist with fear without dramatizing it. This is not courage in the cinematic sense. It is composure. Weather remains the dominant presence. Forecasts exist, but faith in them is limited. Observation outranks prediction. The sky is consulted constantly. Clouds become text to be read. Storms arrive with authority. They close worlds. Visibility collapses. Sound disappears. Movement stops. Waiting becomes the only action left. Patience stretches into hours, days. During these pauses, time dilates. Thoughts slow. Priorities reorder. When movement resumes, it feels earned, not assumed. The Himalaya also teaches about dependence. No one is fully self-sufficient here, despite romantic narratives. Survival is collective. Knowledge is shared. Supplies are pooled. Assistance is mutual. This interdependence reduces illusion of individual dominance. Strength is relational. You are only as capable as the group's weakest member, as the weather allows, as the path permits. This mindset contrasts sharply with low-end ideals of independence and control. The mountains quietly undermine those narratives. Even architecture reflects this humility. Buildings hug terrain instead of imposing geometry. Angles follow slopes. Materials are local. Structures appear temporary, even when they last generations. They acknowledge impermanence openly. Maintenance is constant. Neglect is punished swiftly. The environment tolerates no complacency. The Himalaya also holds a deep sense of continuity without nostalgia. Traditions persist because they work, not because they are old. When conditions change, traditions adapt or disappear without ceremony. This pragmatic relationship with culture confounds outsiders expecting rigid preservation. But here, survival outranks symbolism. The mountains do not encourage attachment to form, only to function. This extends to belief systems as well. Faith is practiced, but rarely argued. It is personal, embedded in routine. Dogma matters less than conduct. Belief is tested daily by reality. Spiritual language often borrows from landscape, paths, heights, crossings, balance. Metaphor arises naturally from lived experience. The Himalaya also reshapes how people understand scale of time. Generations feel close. Ancestors are remembered as practical guides, not distant figures. Their choices still influence routes, fields, settlements. At the same time, geological time dwarfs human lineage. Landslides erase entire chapters in minutes. Rivers rewrite valleys. Perspective oscillates between intimacy and insignificance. This oscillation produces a particular calm. Anxiety about permanence fades. Nothing here pretends to last unchanged. Leaving the Himalaya can feel like stepping back into illusion. Cities feel artificially stable. Climate-controlled spaces feel fragile. The sense of contingency lingers. People carry mountain habits into other lives, checking weather obsessively, packing carefully, respecting limits, trusting observation over assumption. Not everyone misses a hardship. Many leave gratefully, but few forget the clarity. The Himalaya does not ask to be loved. It asks to be met honestly, without expectation of reward, without narrative shortcuts. And those who do meet it on its terms are altered quietly, deeply. The mountains do not announce this change. They do not mark it. They simply allow it to happen. And when the last ridge disappears behind you, when air thickens and sound returns, something remains recalibrated. Effort feels different. Silence feels heavier. Stability feels provisional. The Himalaya has a way of staying with you, not as memory, but as measure, a standard you carry into softer ground, a reminder that not everything yields. and that some things endure not because they resist change, but because they adapt to it endlessly. Down in the lowlands, uncertainty is treated as a problem to be solved. Forecasts are refined. Contingencies are planned. Insurance is purchased. Here, uncertainty is assumed. It is built into every decision from the start. You do not plan to eliminate it. You plan to move with it. This changes how people talk about the future. Conversations are tentative. Phrases lean toward if and when conditions allow. Promises are rare. Commitments are elastic. Reliability is measured not by fixed outcomes, but by responsiveness when things shift. The mountains reward this mental flexibility. Rigidity breaks quickly. Schedules fail. Certainty exhausts itself. Those who adapt survive with less friction. Even identity becomes more fluid. People are defined less by titles and more by roles that change with season and need. Farmer becomes porter, porter becomes guide, guide becomes caretaker. Labels matter less than usefulness in the moment. This fluidity extends to social hierarchy. Status exists, but it is situational. Experience commands respect only where it applies. A skilled climber may defer to a farmer when weather threatens crops. Authority follows relevance. The Himalaya also changes how people experience distance. A nearby village might be unreachable for months. A faraway city might feel abstract, almost fictional. Psychological distance replaces physical measurement. Nearness is defined by access, not kilometers. Messages travel unevenly. News arrives late, sometimes outdated. Urgency fades. Events elsewhere feel muffled, as if filtered through layers of stone. This insulation creates a different sense of importance. What happens here matters most. This inward focus is not ignorance. It is triage. Attention is finite. The environment demands most of it. Risk is accepted without romanticism. People know where danger lives, on certain slopes, at certain times, under certain skies. They work around it. Fear does not vanish, but it is domesticated. This acceptance does not mean recklessness. In fact, caution runs deep. Elders discourage unnecessary exposure. Routes are chosen conservatively. Turning back is common and respected. Pride has little currency here. The Himalaya teaches that retreat is not failure. It is judgment. There is also an acute awareness of the body as an instrument. Fatigue is tracked carefully. Pain is monitored. Illness is taken seriously. Ignoring physical signals invites punishment. The mountains do not negotiate with denial. Rest is scheduled intentionally. Movement is paced. Breathing becomes rhythmic. The body is not pushed blindly. It is managed. This embodied awareness contrasts sharply with environments where bodies are treated as resources to be expended. Here, depletion is visible and costly. Conservation becomes wisdom. The concept of speed changes as well. Fast movement is rarely efficient. Slow, steady progress covers more ground safely. Velocity without control is dangerous. Momentum is secondary to balance. This has a psychological effect. Minds slow down. Thoughts lengthen. Impulses soften. Urgency dissolves into presence. The Himalaya is not conducive to multitasking. Attention narrows. You focus on one thing at a time. Footing, breath, weather. This single tasking feels strangely liberating. Memory forms differently under these conditions. Days are remembered by sensation rather than chronology. Cold mornings, blistered feet, sudden sunlight breaking through cloud. Memory becomes physical. This sensory imprint lasts. Years later, a smell of wet stone or thin smoke can bring the mountains back instantly. The body remembers what the mind forgets. The Himalaya also reframes the idea of legacy. There are few permanent markers here. Stone cairn collapse. Paths shift. Structures weather away. What remains is not monuments, but influence. Routes discovered, knowledge shared, warnings given. People are remembered for what they taught others to avoid as much as for what they achieved. This humility extends to storytelling. Tales emphasize lessons, not heroes. Success is attributed to timing and cooperation as much as skill. Failure is treated as instruction. The environment does not tolerate exaggeration. Claims are tested quickly. Reputation aligns closely with reality. The relationship of material goods is similarly grounded. Objects are chosen carefully, repaired often, discarded reluctantly. Weight matters. Utility matters. Sentiment is secondary. This practical minimalism shapes taste. Excess appears foolish rather than impressive. Simplicity reads as intelligence. Even color feels different here. Bright hues serve function, visibility, warmth, signaling. Subtle tones blend into stone and sky. Aesthetic choices align with environment, not trend. The Himalaya also reshapes how people understand freedom. Freedom is not unlimited choice. It is the ability to move safely within constraints. Knowing limits creates confidence. Ignoring them creates vulnerability. This perspective contrasts sharply with cultures that equate freedom with expansion. Here, freedom is found in mastery of boundaries. Night skies reinforce this humility. Stars blaze with unfamiliar density. The Milky Way feels close enough to touch. Scale becomes undeniable. Human concerns recede naturally, without effort, yet daily life continues. Meals are prepared. Tools are sharpened. Conversations resume. Awe does not interrupt routine. It coexists with it. This coexistence is perhaps the Himalaya's most subtle lesson. Grandeur and ordinariness share the same space. Spectacle does not erase necessity. People living here do not wake up inspired every day. They wake up practical. The mountains are background and constant. Reverence does not require daily astonishment. Visitors often misunderstand this. They arrive seeking transformation. Residents seek continuity. Both are valid. Only one is sustainable. As modernization reaches higher elevations, tension grows quietly. New access brings opportunity and fragility. Traditions adjust. Landscapes absorb impact unevenly. The future remains uncertain. The Himalaya offers no guidance on what should be preserved unchanged. It only demonstrates what adapts successfully. Ultimately, these mountains function as a teacher that does not speak. Lessons are delivered through consequence, not instruction. Attention is rewarded. Carelessness corrected. There is no final mastery. No moment where one understands the Himalaya completely. Each encounter resets the relationship. This endless incompletion is part of its power. As the journey continues, whether in memory, return, or imagination, the mountains remain what they have always been. Not a destination, but condition. A condition that strips excess, sharpens perception, and demands honesty. You do not leave the Himalaya with answers. You leave with better questions. And sometimes that is enough.